Make sure you have page 379, and let's read the problem. Cian is buying beverages for a party that come in packs of 8. Let P be the number of packages Cian buys, and T be the total number of beverages. The equation T equals 8P can be used to calculate the total number of beverages when the number of packages is known. Determine the independent and dependent variables in this scenario. Then make a table using a whole number values of P less than 6. And if you notice, they already gave us those. They already gave us the numbers less than 6. They even gave us the title. So they gave us a title to be the number of packages being P, and that was given right here. The total number of beverages, they gave us the equation. This is to find the total number of beverages. Now, we are going to keep the equation, but I want to make sure that when you guys are completing the table that you're making sense of the information they gave us. Let's start working on it. If you buy no packages of beverages, how many drinks are you going to have? If you buy nothing, are you going to have any drinks or beverages? The answer is going to be. What about if you buy one package? How many beverages is that going to be? You got to keep in mind, there is 8 beverages on each pack. So if you have one pack, how many beverages are you going to have? 8. Thank you. You're correct, Araceli. Thank you. That's 8. How about if you have 2 packages? How many beverages are you going to have? Correct. Yes. Thank you for sending me the answer. Thank you. That's 16. So notice one package is 8. 2 packages is 16. Unless you're doing 8 plus 8, the longer version. But we already learned that if you multiply 8 times 2, gives you the same thing as 8 plus 8, right? Then number 3, 3 packages. How many beverages are you going to have? Thank you. Correct, Angel. You are right. That would be 24. Fantastic. Thank you, Araceli. Yes, thank you for those people who are sending me the answers through the chat. Thank you. And then for packages, you already got the pattern, right? 4 times 8 is 32. 5 times 8 is 40. And if you notice, they gave us the equation. Again, just because they gave it to you, don't ignore it. They told us the P was the number of packages, and how do you find 40? Well, this is a number that keeps changing, right? Which represents T, represents the total number, which is this number here. And if you multiply the packages to the number of items in each package, that gives you how many beverages you're going to have. P times 8 gives you your total. So this is exactly the same thing as 8P, or the same equation that they gave us here. Hopefully you see the pattern here and you're able to transfer how the equation is true. Now you know that in order for you to determine how many beverages you're going to have, you need to know what is the number of packages, right? Take a few seconds to guess. Take a few seconds to determine which one is the dependent and which one is the independent. And then the number of packages is your independent, and the total number of beverages is going to be your dependent. So if you guess those as independent and dependent, then you guess your answers correctly. Make a graph for the table in the opening or exercise. So we're going to use this one to use the graph. They gave us part of the graph. Now, I want to make sure that you understand that I am not teaching you anything new. Some of you in the previous year probably have done graphing, and I know we did a little graphing before Christmas, where you graph and then you were making pictures. I don't know if you guys remember that. We did quadrant 1, quadrant 2. Today, you're just going to use this part here. This part is the same thing as here. Okay, I want you to know that part of the graphing that we did here, it's the same thing we're going to do here. This is just making a connection so you understand that I am not teaching you anything new. This is just information that you've had in the past. And I'm going to erase it so you don't get confused. What we're going to do is your independent information is going to go always on the x-axis. Your dependent information is always going to go on the y-axis. So what I am going to do is that this is my x-axis. This is so that you can make a reference. Well, maybe not, don't put x, just put the x. You guys know. And then this one is your y. Hopefully you make a connection. Which one is going to be your independent and which one is going to be your dependent. Why? Because remember we said that dependent is the result, the effect on graphs. The effect comes from the y. Then we're going to look to see what numbers we're going to use for the x-axis. We have to go to our numbers and see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, if you think about it, we're counting by ones. So here, we're going to do the same thing. You always start with 0, and then you're going to count by ones. This was a pretty easy one because the numbers were not jumping. They were all very consistent. Then you're going to look at the next numbers for the dependent, which is your y-axis. And if you look at the numbers, it's 0, 8, 16, 24. It's kind of the multiplication of 8. So, and also, we were counting by 8s. So your y-axis is going to be counting by 8. The interval is going to be counting by 8. Be very careful, guys, because I've had students who usually they just copy whatever numbers they have here, they just bring them over. And sometimes the tables, they jump patterns. And you got to be very careful with that. One of the things that you got to remember for the intervals, they got to be consistent. If you say you're counting by 1, you need to count by 1. If you say you're counting by 8, you got to be consistent counting by 8s. If you don't do that, you're going to create a misleading graph. Another important factor for your graphing is you must have a title. And what are we talking about? Zin is buying packages of beverages for his party. So we can say, you can make it any title as long as it's related to the problem that we just had. The next thing you need to remember is that the x-axis, in order for us to be able to read these numbers, there has to be a title or a label here. And your x-axis represents the number of packages. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here. We're going to write the number of packages. Try to keep up with me, because if you don't, you're going to end up staying behind. And when you look at the board, you're going to see the board is full of information and you're not going to know what to copy, and you're not going to understand it. The other y-axis comes from the other information from your table right here, and that is the number of beverages. So we're going to write total number of beverages on the other side. We're going to say total number of beverages. These titles are extremely important to be able to understand what those numbers mean. Now we know that for one number of package, how many beverages were included? 8. If you say, Ms. Islas, where did you get that information from? You're going to have to come back here to your table and say, oh, 1 package equals to 8 beverages. 2 packages equals to 16. And that is the information that I am going to graph. 1 package was 8. 2 packages was 16, 3 packages was 24, 4 packages was 32, 5 packages was 40, and 6 packages was 48. We didn't have it. I'm gonna just also grab the 0 packages. It is kind of nice to be able to see what happens when you connect the dots. You can see that the more packages you buy, the more beverages you're gonna get. It increases. This is why we say the y-axis or the dependent variable help us to determine if it's increasing or if it's decreasing. This part here will always help you determine if your information is increasing or decreasing. So let's not forget to go into your graph and go ahead and write which one is your independent variable and which one is your dependent variable. Maybe we should put the word variable just so you know what that means. I say it, but I didn't write it. Independent variable. Keep in mind, if you don't have any packages, if you buy no packages, then you have no beverages. Something that I've noticed that really helps kids to remember whenever they have a quiz, something that really helps is when you number every single item that you must have in a graph. So that's what I'm gonna do. The first thing you need to know that you need to have is a title. I will take points off if you guys don't have a title. The second thing that you need to do is make sure that your x-axis has an interval, consistent interval. Your y-axis has consistent interval. That the x-axis has a name or a title. That is 5 for the y-axis. And then you want to make sure that you graph your information. And number 7, if you can connect them.